Okay, so I've said once or twice that I want to do a QB carousel video, just talking about a lot of the. I don't necessarily want to say big name quarterbacks. Some of them are, but I've also got like Carson Wentz on here, who unfortunately for him just isn't that big of a name anymore. But a lot of the guys that are either free agents or I've kind of been talked about as potentially getting traded, maybe getting released as a cap casualty, or there's just kind of some speculation about their future. Like, I don't have every dude on here. Like, we know where Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen are all going. They're just staying where they are. But for quite a few of them, I just wanted to kind of give my quick thoughts. I will be honest, I haven't done a whole lot of, like, what is every team's actual, like, salary cap situation? How much is this guy going to be against the cap? So a lot of what I'm going to say is probably not like, oh yeah, I've done my research. This is really going to happen. It's just more of, given this guy and like his skill set, his value to the league at the moment, what value he brings to this specific team kind of thing, where do I think people might go? So starting with Lamar, I think he stays in Baltimore. I don't know if he's going to get a long-term deal or a franchise tag, but what I think is going to happen, I feel like Harbaugh realizes at this point, my job security is tied to Lamar Jackson. If we trade him and let him go, and then we're bad, like we don't make the playoffs, he probably gets fired. And I think he kind of realizes, excuse me, I don't think I could get away with that. And I think kind of the same thing for the GM, especially after the recent thing with, he was kind of throwing shots at the receivers and Bateman went back at him and was like, well, you suck too. I think they realize if we trade Lamar and then we suck for a year, maybe we get a second year, but if we suck for both of those years, we're not going to stick around. We have to make this work. I understand why the Ravens don't want to give him a massive Deshaun Watson contract. And to be fair, I don't think Deshaun Watson should have gotten the Deshaun Watson contract either. But with Lamar, it's like, hey, I'm in more or less my prime, either there or we'll be there in like a year or two. But he's good, he's consistent. When he's on the field, you feel like Baltimore always has a chance to win. Unless they're down like 20 or something, but, in like the last few minutes of the fourth quarter. But generally speaking, you feel like you always have a chance to win with a guy that dynamic. And if he thinks he's worth that much money, dude, go for it. Get what you feel like you're worth. Because someone of your skill set is going to get that, whether it's in Baltimore or somewhere else. I understand why Baltimore doesn't want to pay him, though. A, that's a lot of money. And two, that's a lot of money for a guy who hasn't finished the last season. Or the season before that. Which, from Lamar's perspective, all the more reason to try to get it all guaranteed. But it's like, I understand both sides. But I feel like and again, like, I don't know Lamar personally, but like, I get the vibe that he wants to stay in Baltimore if he can get what he feels he's worth. Excuse me. And I feel like management knows if we get rid of him, we might be screwing ourselves. So I think they're gonna give him what he wants, or at least be able to negotiate and get something close to it, but I think he ultimately stays in Baltimore. Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he goes anywhere. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. I don't think he goes to another team because I think he retires. Because I think this was a few seasons ago, too, when there was a lot of speculation about where he was going to go. Not just like, oh, is he going to get traded to Denver, like they just hired Nathaniel Hackett. But maybe it was last year, but when he was like really considering being the host of Jeopardy and all that, it seemed like he might be done. It seems like he's starting to lean toward that. And with his whole thing of, I need to make sure I'm all in. I have to make sure that I am all in, I am ready to go, that I want to keep doing this. To me, that sounds like someone who's just like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I really don't. I think I'm ready to step away. It's like, if he's like, I need to do like a big meditation thing and figure out where which, this is a human being. This is a big decision about, do I stop doing what I love? Do I go somewhere else? Because I've been here for, 18 seasons? Like, I've been here like 20 years, but I'm ready to go somewhere else. Or like, okay, do I stay for one last decision? Or like one last ride? give him his space. Like, like, I have my criticisms of Aaron Rodgers. Like, I honestly find him pretty annoying at times. I won't lie. But this is still a human being. Give him time to make his decision. So long as he makes it, in my opinion, before the league year starts. Because at that point, it's like, okay, now you are actually holding a lot of people off, and you specifically said you wouldn't. Come on, man. But as long as he makes it within, like, the next couple weeks, yeah, I mean, I think it's fine, but I think he retires. I really do feel like he's at that point where he's just gonna step away, and maybe he'd come back if he's, like, offering, and he's like, I want to come back, but I don't think he's going to. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if I had another thought there. I was kind of thinking about, like, do I have anything else to say about Rodgers? No, I think he retires. Next is Carr. Carr, I think, goes to the Jets. Even before all of this about how, like, they courted him, or, like, yeah, you could be a first ballot Hall of Famer with us. Even before, like, all that shit came out, I was like, I think Derek Carr is going to go to the Jets. Because the Jets need a stable guy. A guy who's pretty good. A veteran guy that hopefully can teach Zach Wilson not to suck. I don't think he signs a super long deal. I think Carr probably signs like a 2, maybe 3 years. Probably like 2 years with a third-year option, so they can say, cool, we've had you for 2 years, you were really good. We feel like Zach is now actually good. You go do what you gotta do, we're gonna do what we gotta do. And yeah, like, they're a team that feels like they can compete. They've got some good young receivers. They've got some good young running backs. They've got a really good defense, something Carr's never had in his career. He's had good defensive players, Khalil Mack, but never all together. And I think he wants to go somewhere like that. It's another reason he could potentially go to New Orleans. I would like that a lot, but I think he goes to the Jets. And yeah, as for Zach Wilson, I think he stays. I don't think they trade him. Partly because I don't know who would want him. As fucked as that sounds to say, it's like, I don't think anyone really believes in Zach Wilson right now after what happened last season. Or at the very least, I don't think anyone's willing to trade assets for him when you could just get another guy in the draft. You could argue, it's like, well, a guy in the draft is unproven, but I mean, so is Zach Wilson. I don't know, you'd probably have to spend a couple picks to trade for him, and you could just spend one on a rookie QB. Who also technically would be a little bit cheaper because they're now on their first year instead of their third. Excuse me. So yeah, I think Zach Wilson stays with the Jets at least for now, and they try to bring in a veteran guy to develop him, which I think Zach said, I don't know if this was a meme or if this was legitimate, where he's like, yeah, if they bring another dude, I'm going to make his life hell. Or like, oh gosh, maybe he'll just get cut if he ends up being too toxic for Carr, but we'll see what happens. Next, so Carson Wentz. So at this point, like, the first 3 guys, like, these are not necessarily in order. Like, these are the big names. Then it was just, as someone came to mind, I wrote them down. I actually think I started writing this after hearing Carson Wentz got released. I was like, oh shit, I need to just go ahead and write this shit, blah, blah, blah. So Wentz, I think, is not, he's either going to be a backup somewhere, or he's going to be we have a young guy that we either drafted this time or drafted last year. He kind of needs a little bit more time. He's still a little raw. We need a guy for a year, maybe 2, to be a bridge starter, or like to be a backup for this guy in case things go a little south. So I think he's going to a team like that. I right now have him going to the Falcons. Right now they've got, is it Desmond Ridder is the guy they have? I think because Malik Willis is in Tennessee. I think they have Ridder. I think they bring in Wentz, again, to either be here's the veteran, so you have some more time to develop, or here's our backup insurance, just in case, so like we got somebody. I don't really have much else to say about that. Next, they've got the 49ers trio, because they've got 3, there's the old adage, like, if you have 2 starting quarterbacks, you really have none, but the 49ers, like, no, we legitimately have 3 guys that we believe in, at least to some degree. So, Purdy stays. After what happened last year, I don't think they would get rid of him. They kind of have no reason to. Now, he is going to be healing, so he is going to be, on like IR for a good chunk of the season, but I think when he's ready, he comes back. unless Lance is balling out, because I have Lance staying too. I don't think they trade him. I feel like some teams are going to inquire and be like, hey, you guys got Brock, you've got a guy, we kind of don't. We know you gave up a lot of assets for Lance, but we'll give you guys this and see what we can do. I think there's going to be some interest, but I think the 49ers are going to say, look, we traded up for this kid. We like him. We believe in him. And we need insurance because Brock is not going to be ready week 1. So we're going to give Lance that, what is it? 'Cause I think it's like 6 months or so that Purdy's going to be out. So starting from now, that would be till about September. So theoretically, maybe he could be ready week 1, but he also would be missing training camp, so probably not. It's like, we'll give Lance some time to hold down the fort. And if he's balling out and he's the guy we think he is, we're going to ride with him. If not, if there's another injury, or if it turns out that, we're kind of struggling a bit, we can just go back to Brock. But I think they'll keep both of them. I don't think they're keeping Jimmy G, unless, something crazy happens. But I think Jimmy G goes on. Kind of like Wentz, I have him as a guy that's, I see Jimmy G as less of, you're here to be our backup, and just more of, you're going to be our here for a couple of years kind of guy, so we can help the kid grow. Right now, I have him going to New Orleans. I think the Saints draft a quarterback. I hope they draft Hooker. I know quite a few Saints fans hope they draft Hooker. I think they take Jimmy G, and you can make an argument if he's really an upgrade from Dalton or not. I don't think he's a huge upgrade, especially with his injury concerns. But I think the Saints management kind of know that, like, we can't run it back. Or if we do, we actually have to let Jameis fucking play. And when he's injured, make sure he rests. And then when he's healthy, let him fucking play. But I think they're like, we're not going to go with Dalton again. Like, he wasn't awful, but he wasn't, like, great. I think they try to make a splash play with Jimmy G. I would love it if we got Lamar. We have to at least ask and see what we could do. We tried to trade for Watson. Fucking try to trade for Lamar. Excuse me. I think we end up with Jimmy G. I think we end up with a rookie. And that's kind of his job, is to look after him. So I guess looking over the other two Saints quarterbacks real quick. Dalton, I think, basically does the same thing as Jimmy G, but he goes to Tennessee. I think Tennessee takes like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. And they kind of like, all right, Dalton, you're here to kind of look after them for a bit. So we'll put a quick pin in there because that means Tannehill's going to be gone. But I think that happens. Jameis, I don't know. Jameis might just stay with the Saints. Just make sure we've got another guy. I guess. I don't really know where he goes. It'd be really interesting if we went back to Tampa. Let's take the pin out for Tannehill. Tannehill, I just said Carolina. I think Tennessee is going to try to rebuild a bit. I think they've realized we've kind of hit our ceiling with Tannehill. We'll send him somewhere else. Maybe they trade him. Maybe they release him. But I think Carolina's going to say, Darnold's fine, but he wasn't really impressing us. Let's go for this guy, see what happens. And I don't think Carolina really drafts a guy. Unless they maybe like trade up for Young or Stroud or something, but I don't think so. Let's see. Baker Mayfield. I'm not super sure where Baker goes. I'm just gonna say Tampa. He could. So he could stay with the Rams and be a backup and kind of be like, look, Stafford's not gonna be around here forever. You'll be our guy after. Maybe he would be down for that, but I feel like Baker probably wants to go start somewhere if he thinks he can. Excuse me, and Tampa's got a big opening right now, so I'll say he goes to Tampa. Geno, I think, stays in Seattle. I think he might not get like a massive super deal, but I think he stays in Seattle. Mariota, I think, goes to the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are going to say, Kyler's out for a while. We want someone who can run a similar offense, someone who's very athletic and could do a lot of running. I think that's the kind of QB they look for. And they're not going to trade for Lamar. That would, we've got our guy. But we want someone who can do something kind of similar to hold down the fort for a while. I feel like that's where Mariota's going to be. I said Tannehill already. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. Bryce Young, I think, goes to Houston. I think someone trades up to number 1, and I think they take Stroud, and I think Bryce is going to fall down to number 2, and Houston's going to say, thank you, Lord. The team I have trading up for Stroud, I think it's going to be the Colts. I think the Colts are done with their own QB carousel that they've had going on for the last few years. I think they say, we need a guy. We're at number 4. The Bears probably aren't going to trade for a dude. So I'll go and say, yeah, I think the Bears just stay with Fields. But it's like the Bears have their guy. We don't have to worry about them. The Cardinals have their guy. We don't have to worry about them. A QB can fall to us. But someone could trade up to number 1 and someone could trade up to number 3, and then we don't get the guy we want. Also, Houston's at number 2. They are our division rival. What if they want the guy we want? It's like we like both of these guys, but what if they get the guy we want? And then we have to play him twice a year. Compete directly for a playoff spot. I mean, we're only going up 3 spots. We probably don't have to give up an insane amount. Like, something good. Something to make them, like, want it. Fuck it, let's do it. I think that's what happens. And I think they go for Stroud because his measurables are a bit better. Like, because I know a lot of people talk about how Bryce Young is really short. I think that's going to turn them off of him. And I think that Georgia game is going to make them fall in love with Stroud. I think he goes number 1, and then Bryce falls number 2 to Houston. Oh, let's see. Who do I have next? Matt Ryan. I don't think he stays with the Colts. I think they're just going to say, this is our guy. You are now starting, Mr. Rookie. So Ryan, I have, kind of being like a bridge emergency. Okay, so he's less of a bridge. I think he goes to the Dolphins. Because I think the Dolphins are in a situation where Tua's our guy, but man, last season was fucking scary. And I sincerely hope, like, nothing but the best for Tua going forward, man. But I think they're going to say, we need a guy here. Again, kind of maybe hold down the fort. And boy, Matt Ryan was terrible last year, but the Colts in general were just terrible. And, maybe we bring him in for a year and see what we can do. Like, we think we can compete. It'd be nice to have, like, if something does happen to Tua, a guy that can play for a couple games. Like let's do that. Like, I think that's what's going to happen to Matt Ryan. Mac Jones. I've heard a couple things about how maybe the Patriots actually are, like, getting sick of him. Maybe they want to get rid of him. I don't think so. I think he just stays in New England. What the hell does that even... Oh, that says Tua. The U looked like an I and an N. I was like, who the fuck is Tina? It's like, yeah, Tua. Like I said, I think he stays in Miami. I don't think they try to get rid of him. Trubisky, I think he stays in Pittsburgh as a backup. Fields, like I said, I think the Bears don't trade him. Danny Dimes, and he gets franchise tagged. I feel like the Giants are going to look at last year and say, oh, thank God, he finally had a good year, but that's also one... We don't want to fall for the illusion. We don't want to get Flacco'd over here, which I think that's another reason the Ravens probably don't want to pay all that to Lamar. Is they're like, yeah, we fell for the Flacco illusion. And on the one hand, I'm like, I mean, Lamar Jackson is no Joe Flacco. Like, you can see him, like, consistently, like, because, like, Flacco could be very hot and then very cold, and I feel like I've rarely seen those cold stretches from Lamar. But on the other hand, Lamar is no Flacco, because Flacco actually got it done, and Lamar still hasn't done that. It's like, I understand the Ravens' trepidation, and I understand Lamar just, like, wanting his money. I think they're both in the right because of that. But Danny Dimes, I think he just stays with the Giants. Dalton, I've said him. And the only person left is Brady. Brady did retire. So that's kind of, I was like, should I put him on here? No, because he retired. He, like, filed the paperwork. He's done. I still think he's going to play this year. But he's not going to play week 1. I genuinely think what's going to happen is at some point a team is going to have a big injury. I feel like I've said this before. Maybe I kind of was speculating, like, Brady will retire this year, then this will happen next year. But I think someone's going to get a big injury. And I think they're going to be like, all right, let's ask around. Let's see if there's anyone we could trade for, any free agents. We could ask Brady. maybe he would come out of retirement and, like, finish the season for us. And so this would have to be a contending team. Like, if it's, I don't know, like, the Texans and, like, Bryce Young goes down, I don't think they're going to be like, I mean, they might say, hey, Brady, do you want to play for us? I don't think he would go play for Houston. But, I don't know, maybe, like, the 49ers, look at how shitty their injury luck has been with QB. Like, last year was insanely bad. But maybe something like that happens. But again, like, maybe Lance gets injured relatively early in the season before Brock is really ready to go. And maybe they're like, hey Tom, you want to play for your hometown 49ers? I don't think Brady would say no. Again, I don't know the guy personally. But I feel like Brady would say, I get to play for my favorite team that I've kind of always wanted to do. This is a good team that is ready to win now. And, you know, like, I don't have to be here for years. I can just kind of, you know, do one season, compete for a ring, and if I get it, I get it, and if I don't, I don't. Yeah, let's do it. You know, I actually really buy that. Now, I don't know if it'll be, again, San Francisco specifically. It might be someone else that gets injured and is contending. I just realized I don't have anyone going to the Raiders, so I guess Jameis, because I do think that the Saints are going to say, like, all right, we've drafted a kid. We've gotten another veteran guy. I don't think they want Jameis, which makes me really sad because I do like him. I think he'll go somewhere else, and, you know, it seems like the Raiders probably need a dude. I think that's about it. We'll see how I do. We'll see how close I get, actually. Oh, sorry, I think the light's getting a little weird. We'll see how I get when it actually comes to these picks. I'm kind of excited. I feel like some of them, I feel like I'll get a lot of the ideas right. Like, yeah, like, Wentz went somewhere to kind of be a backup bridge guy. Same with Jimmy G, same with Dalton. I do think Tannehill is going to get moved. I don't know if I'll get the actual specific places right. So, like, I kind of want to do it, like, once week 1 starts, or, like, once we've finished free agency and the draft. Like, if I get the vibe right, that's half a point. If I got the place right, that's a full point. And if I got someone wrong, that's 0 points. If I even do Jeopardy rules, where it's like, all right, you said Rodgers was going to retire. No, he did go to the Raiders. You get a negative point. You'll penalize yourself for actual mistakes. Like, we'll see how it goes. It'll be kind of interesting. But, yeah, that's all I have for this video. I wanted to make sure I got it out before free agency started. So I was like, these are my picks. 5 of them have already happened. So we'll see.